This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with Heart and Vascular Grand Rounds. Before we start, just want to remind everybody we're working with our Toys for Tots campaign this year to support the children in the greater Atlanta area, and doing this a little different than what we've done previously. So Toys for Tots has basically working with the Marine Corps Reserve, and they help collect and deliver these gifts to kids in the area who are needy. And so what we're asking for is new, unused, unwrapped toys. And so you can either drop them off at the cardiology office. We've sent the PayPal information out, and we can send that out again. Any questions about it, shoot me an email. Or you can just order them online and have them shipped, with your Amazon or Walmart or whatever. The UPS and deliverers are very curious as to what they're delivering over to cardiology now. We've had cases of basketballs showing up and great things like that. So please think about the kids in the city of Atlanta and surrounding areas this holiday season. It's very important that we help give back to our community. And then Chris is going to do some magic here, and we're going to start with our conference. And today we have Dr. Gina Lundberg with us, and all of you, I think, know Gina, who's the clinical director of our Women's Heart Center, and is a known advocate for women's cardiovascular health, expert in that area, but is also a social media person and has really promoted the use of social media for professionals in cardiology, has been leading sessions on this at national meetings and been heavily involved in this. And any of you that are signed up, follow her on Twitter, knows that she is a frequent user of Twitter, and believes this is a really important way for us to communicate with each other and with the community. And so with that, we're going to turn it over to Gina. She's caught her breath here. She had a little car trouble this morning. So Gina, thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and I apologize for holding everyone up. They say bad things come in threes. Well, it started Saturday afternoon when the Bulldogs lost. And then I woke up Sunday morning with no voice because I was at the Elton John concert and knew every word to every song from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. And then this morning my car wouldn't start. So I hope the threesome bad luck is over. So I have no disclosures, but I do want to disclose to you that I am pretty passionate and crazy about social media. I've been on Twitter about 5 years, 5.5 years. And I really think it is an important way to educate communities, individuals, but also to collaborate and educate among other medical educators. And so I want to talk to you about that. So some of you in the audience I know are on Twitter, and others are asking, why in the world would I be on Twitter? And so I'm going to hopefully give you some compelling reasons to consider joining the internet. Hopefully you're not, I'm not preaching to the choir. I know some of you are involved, but I also know some of you are not at all involved. Dr. Spencer King's in the audience. I've been trying to get him on Twitter for forever. Maybe we'll make some headway today. All right, so I am going to review the growth of the internet. I think it's very important for you all to see how many of your patients, how much of the world is on the internet and on social media. Review how it might be important in academic medicine and research, talk about it as a potential core competency for cardiologists, and then give some simple instructions for any of you who are interested in getting on and how to do a good tweet. So doctors on Twitter, I think probably about 10 years ago, everybody thought social media was silly, and probably the most common answer I get when I talk to someone about why aren't you on social media is they say, I do not have time. And one of the things I hope to impress upon you today is it's an incredibly cost-conscious, time-efficient way to get the news, to know what's in the journals, and to know what everyone's talking about long before the journal arrives on your doorstep. So 10 good reasons why doctors should be on social media. And this was actually written about 12 years ago, but it's held up and it's very true today. It's to connect with other physicians, but also with patients, not necessarily individual patients. We don't want to be giving consults online, but to connect with the patient community at large, to engage, to inform. We all know that studies come out and the headlines leave you wanting, right? Aspirin doesn't work, fish oils don't work. Well, what group of people, what dose? Primary prevention, secondary prevention. This gives you the opportunity to explain the results that aren't being very well explained in the media. To reflect, to think about what's happening with the stethoscope, what's happening in medicine, what's happening in academic medicine. Should medical schools be free? All the types of things that are on the internet now. To share, to be challenged, to be supported, to lead, to learn, and to inspire. And I'm inspired by people on Twitter every day. Some of them are fellows in training are very active, but also by some of the very wise people who are on the internet. So the use of internet for social media is quite hardy in America. So this is from 2012 to 2018, and 68% of people are on Facebook, 73% use YouTube. I've had patients go to YouTube to learn everything from how their bypass surgery is going to be done, their cath's going to be done. Even a patient who was from Morocco got instructions on how to take Coumadin in her native language. So YouTube is already being used by our patients. Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, and WhatsApp, 22 to about 35%. And a lot of fellows and educational groups are using WhatsApp to share live cases, but also to get information. Hey, what do you guys think of this EKG? This patient's having a bleeding problem, but they should be on dual antiplatelet therapy and a NOAC. What would you all do? WhatsApp is already being used because it's a private community of people who can share things with privacy. It's HIPAA controlled. So who is on the internet? Well, most people are daily users. On Facebook, 74% are on it daily, Snapchat, 63%, Instagram, 60%, Twitter and YouTube, 45, 46% respectively. And most people are on it, about half of the users, several times a day. So I myself, not this morning, but most mornings I get on Twitter about 7 a.m., see what the new studies are, see what's going to be the headlines. The original reason I got on Twitter was I was sitting at the dinner table with my, at that time, college-age children, and it was the day that the article said fish oils are causing prostate cancer in men. So it was about 5 years back. And we'd gotten 1 million phone calls at the office that day. What do we do? And I said, I wish there was a way that I could tell all of my patients what I think of something with one statement instead of 1 million phone calls. And both kids didn't even look up. They said, Mom, you need to be on Twitter. And that's when I really got interested, is how could I share information without us getting 1 million phone calls at the office? And it's been very helpful because many of the patients do follow me on Twitter. So who is a Twitter user or a LinkedIn user? Well, these are the demographics. LinkedIn is predominantly male, but it's 56 to 44, so it's fairly even. Twitter, same way, 53-47. It's generally people 30 to 49, which is a demographic that we're wanting to see in the office, particularly for primary prevention. It's not just kids, and it's not just, grandma and grandpa. Most of the people on social media have a college degree, 45% for Twitter, 59% on LinkedIn. And it's mostly whites. So it's a white, educated, middle-aged group of people who's using this. Now, if you don't know the difference in what the different social medias are, basically, I think Facebook is very personal. That's like, here's a picture of my dog, here's what I had for dinner. It's very personal, and I would not use it for a professional site. YouTube is videos that if you had something interesting in the cath lab or on Echo, you might want to post. Twitter is more of a news feed, and I'm going to spend most of the time talking about it. Instagram is just pictures, and that is my private account that I don't share with anybody. So if any of you ask to friend me, sorry, that's just for family. That's where I like to post pictures of us on vacation and personal things that is just for my family. Snapchat is very young, very popular with the young, and not a great media for a professional account because it's very quick. And LinkedIn is almost your new business card. That's where you put your bio, you can put your publications, and it can be shared if you're job searching or if you just want people to know what's going on with your department or what you're doing. It's more of a business card. This is not just an American thing. It's actually very international. Some of my best Twitter buddies are in Serbia and Saudi Arabia and England. It's very international. As you can see here, the United States lags behind Sweden, Netherlands, and Australia, but it's very active in US and Canada. Even France, Greece, Japan, and Germany have at least around 40% users. So it's a very international group. And this is a prediction of how many billions of people will be on the internet by 2020. So here we are in 2018, 2.67 billion, almost 3 billion in just 2 more years. And it's not just for clinical physicians. Scientists and engineers are on it as well. Google Scholar is very hardy with getting your research publications out. Something that I had published in circulation wasn't on PublMed for weeks, but it was on Google Scholar the next day, so I was really happy about that. ResearchGate is also very robust, and I'm on that. That's a great way to publish your research, your abstracts, and collaborate with other researchers. You can follow what research they do that interests you, and then you know as soon as something's come out. LinkedIn and Facebook are just behind that, and then Twitter is about 10 to 15% for science and engineers. So there's some more robust ones if you're interested in just the research that's being published. So JACC Heart Failure published an article in 2017 stating the Twittersphere needs academic cardiologists. And what they did is they went to the editors of Circulation and JACC and asked how many of them were active on social media. And the main thing was to see if they're on social media, because if they're not, then those opinions aren't being shared. One of the faults with the internet is it's anybody's opinion. So you can be a third-year medical student or you can be a seasoned professor and you still get to say what you want to say on the internet. And the gist behind this article was we need academic cardiologists on to give good information, to give more of the ivory tower view of what's going on as opposed to just opinions. Well, unfortunately, most JACC and Circulation editors were not on Twitter, as you can see, and it was really a plea for more academic cardiologists to consider joining. A few editorial board members for Circulation or JACC were active on Twitter, most having very few followers or tweeting infrequently. A lot of people will get an account and just use it for the news and never post, but people want your opinion. I talk to Dr. Wenger all the time. She's joined social media, but she doesn't like to post very often. And she's got, I think last time I checked, 600 followers, and she's never really posted anything. People want to know what she has to say, and I'm really excited that even at her age, she's joined social media and she's engaged and she's willing to be involved. And I think there's going to be a high demand for her tweets. Peter Block has recently joined. Everybody wants to know what these people have to say. A lack of engagement prevents expert opinions from being out there, and so we really do want to know, what do the experts say? JACC has over 19,000 followers, and Circulation, I checked last night, has over 26,000 followers. So they've got a good group of people following them, and we want to know what the experts have to say. Just in early September, this was published in Circulation, Twitter as a new core competency for cardiologists. And this is when I wrote Dr. Taylor and said, you've got to let me give grand rounds on this, because I think you all need to know that a lot of people, are naysayers on this, but it isn't going away. It's becoming embedded in cardiology, and I think we all need to consider it as part of the future role of what we do to create our own brand and reputation, but also our academic reputation for Emory. So how can you engage in social media? Well, as I said, about 70% of people on Twitter just get the news. And if that's all you do, that's great. But I do want to encourage you to start to share your opinion or your thoughts on it. For education, you can follow scientific meetings. I'm going to show you some information from ACC and AHA. But as soon as the new cholesterol guidelines were released, it was all over social media. As soon as the study is released, it's all over social media. You don't have to wait to get the journal to see what the study was about and what people think about it. There's online journal clubs, particularly ACC has them for the fellows in training in the early career. You can schedule online chats. I've been involved with several that we've done through here from Emory, but I've also done with the FH, the Familial Hypercholesterolemia Foundation. We did one on pregnancy for women in FH. We did one on why you should get the flu shot. So a lot of information going on out there. And to enhance your participation in a scientific meeting. I've actually not been able to attend meetings, but by following other people on Twitter, what we call live tweeting, you feel like you're getting the information right away. And I've actually had people think I was at the meeting because I was tweeting so much from it, and I wasn't even there. You can use it to teach an online audience, learn and engage remotely, and share live chats. And I've actually been involved with mentoring young fellows in training and early career that I've never even met before maybe a meeting, and they ask for advice, and there's a private chat, a direct message that you can use, so those are all private. And a lot of people I feel like I've been able to influence and encourage in a career in cardiology through social media. You do create a professional brand, and you can promote your research and collaborate. There's great networking going on. And you can promote what you do. I promote the Women's Heart Center. I have a Twitter for that. I promote things for women in academics. We promote prevention, all types of areas we're interested in. It is important to have sort of a code of conduct to be on social media. And so you want to be professional, respectful, friendly. It is not the place to engage in political debates. It's not the place to be rude to other people because you look worse than the person you're attacking. You do want to set some boundaries. You don't want to be on it 5 hours a day, but maybe 10 minutes a day is worthwhile. You also have to realize that you can't put things up that are protected. So there'll be a lot of, for the imagers, it's very robust. There's a lot of cool echo pictures and angiograms, but you need to make sure that no one's name is on it, no identifiable data. Tweeting at the meeting. So as I said, you can be getting live information from a meeting. You don't even have time to attend. You can be part of the discussion of what's going on. This just came out in CERT Quality Outcomes, and it showed that the engagement in meetings because of social media has increased drastically. So here, 2014 tweeters, 2016 at major meeting went from 3,000 involved with Twitter users to over 10,000. Conference attendees are dropping. We see this every year at our Women's Heart Center CME, but we also have the challenge with Escape and CPC, trying to get people to take time off work, come to a conference, register, pay dues. These are expensive things, and the rate of people attending CME is stable to declining. And getting people on Twitter, live tweeting from the event, engages more people, shares more science and data. The number of tweets is exploding from 2014 to 2016, 12,000 tweets to up to 41,000 tweets average per conference. And then as those people retweet or like, it gets expanded to what we call impressions, and you have over 244 million impressions at conferences in 2016 to compare to just over 100 million in 2014. So the expansion of the data is very important for these meetings, and it also gets people to think, I haven't been to that meeting, maybe I'd like to go to that one. This was a projection that by 2023, that this is the number of virtual attendees, and this is the actual conference attendees that, again, is remaining quite stable, will be much more significant virtual online attendees at a conference than the actual attendees in person. So every major meeting, they have sort of a leaderboard of who's been doing the tweeting, who are the mentions, the tweets, and who's got the most influence. And this was from ACC 2018. We have all of these leaders on the board, 268 million impressions. So a lot of people paying attention to ACC 18. This is what we call the leaderboard, and I want you all to know I worked very hard to get up there. I also, this is the Georgia ACC. I do that tweet as well, that Twitter site. Hopefully you don't know that's me, because I try very hard to be even to Augusta Medical College of Georgia, Mercer, Morehouse, and all the institutions in Georgia, and it's very important with that Twitter hosting to remain anonymous and fair and unbiased. This was the AHA 18 participants, and again, a lot of robust tweeters. Martha Galati is excellent. Mamas. Purvi is a fit. She's very robust. Erin Mikos, who's well known for her preventive cardiology. Viet is a PA, but he is one of the best tweeters out there. Annabelle Vogman. Anastasia's from Australia, and then I just barely made the cut. And then they do give out awards for people who tweet the most. Top 5 Twitter influencer for AHA. So why should doctors pay attention? Well, it's not just about you and your reputation or your academic community. It's also your patients. Your patients are going to the internet to find out, what treatment do I need for this? What drug should I take? Should I get a second opinion? And you also can have an influence there. So the public is going to the internet and getting all kinds of bad information. And so it's important for good doctors with evidence-based, guideline-driven opinions or years of experience to share those opinions. We want to help our patients make good medical choices. We also have to influence policymakers. One of the most important things that the Georgia ACC does is we go to Washington, D.C. Every September. It's the Georgia ACC legislative group going to the National ACC conference. We meet with all of the state representatives and senators, and they're on Twitter, so it's important for us to use it to influence them too. Something we talked about importantly this year was decrease the demands of the EMR and the paperwork for the physicians so we can do what we're trained to do, take care of patients. Well, that's an important thing that probably everyone in this room is behind, but it's also important for us to be using that on social media so that they understand why we think this is important and get the public opinion behind us. So what about social media for academic promotion? So some institutions, such as Mayo Clinic, do, one, insist that all their academic faculty be on social media, but two, they take that into account for their regional as well as national reputation. And it is starting to be used in some academic centers as part of promotion guidelines. You can have more people aware of what you do because of your social media presence than any article you've published or scientific research you've done. This is from the Journal of Graduate Medical Education, and they're also proposing that academic centers get behind using social media as part of the portfolio for influence and service and academic promotion. So you can have more likes and tweets than people actually reading your article. So when you publish something, you want to know that 1,000 people read it or cited it, right? But very few of us will ever make it to the Millipub Club. But you can have more people read it on social media or read about it, and then they might go back and say, hey, I want to read that article. So the role of scholarship is changing with social media, and it's important to recognize this contribution. Trying to get more faculty members involved is important because if there's just a few at your institution, you can't support each other, retweet, and extend that influence. And academic centers that have a lot of people on are very good at tagging co-workers, tagging people's research, and expanding that. So some of the people here at Emory are very good about it, and we have a little Twitter community. The EP group is very good at it, and some of the fellows are very good at it. So this is an article from the British Journal about, again, citations are not enough. Academic promotion panels must take into account scholars' presence in popular media, and this is out of Great Britain. And this is in the British Medical Journal, again, about scholarship being an important part is your reputation online. Most academic centers have robust social media. This is our Emory Department of Medicine and our Emory Cardiology. If you get online, you want to tag them so they can, one, know that you did it, two, retweet it, and possibly expand it. And also we want to promote Emory Cardiology as an important site to go to for information. So Twitter is trending in academic medicine, and a big part of that is because of the social media that's used by our national societies. So here's a comparison between PubMed and Twitter, and I think this is very helpful at looking at the differences. So the general principle of PubMed is very self-directed, but Twitter is participative. The search method on PubMed is keywords, but on Twitter you use hashtags. So let's say you're a interventional cardiologist. Hashtag ACC will get you everyone who is involved in interventional cardiology. Or say you're interested in women in cardiology, hashtag ACCWIC is the search engine for that. You put it in the search, and every tweet that anyone's used that hashtag on will pop up, and then you can find everything in that category of your interest. The content is immediate on Twitter. The content half-life is days, whereas on PubMed it's years. It's well suited for learning by sharing, whereas PubMed is about reporting. There's no peer review on Twitter, so it's not academically rigorous. But if someone says something wrong, you're going to get called out on that. And people will say, well, what about this, or that's not right. It's generally done in a polite way, but if something's wrong, it gets corrected quickly. The discussions are very casual, and anyone can be involved, including patients who may have that disorder or have an experience along those lines. The reach is viral. It goes out very quickly. Most tweets will peak within about 18 minutes. And it's multimedia. You can put on a picture of an echo, a picture from an MRI, a picture from the cath lab, an EKG, and people can see the data with the information immediately. And the major strength is, it's instant feedback, but it's also not rigorous. It hasn't been reviewed. And so some of this is just opinions. So I love this cartoon. It's all very well making discoveries, saving lives, and improving the world, Roger, but your research is making barely any impact on social media. And I think for the researchers in the room, you find that it's very important to use social media to promote your research. I was tweeting about disparities of healthcare and how it's just wrong that African American women have more heart disease younger than white women. And I got a tweet back from a group called Close the Gap. And they said, we'd like to talk to you. We are interested in what you're saying. And after multiple meetings and contacts, they actually gave the Emory Women's Heart Center a $25,000 grant to support our 10,000 Women project. So there's a lot of opportunities on social media that you won't be aware of if you're not engaged. This is from the Journal of Surgical Research, and they promoted their article here. And then when I said, hey, I want to read that, I went back to the article. They talk about social media enabling surgeons to advance core values such as inclusion, leadership, innovation, scholarship, and mentorship. And the longer I've been on the internet with social media, I feel like the inclusion, leadership, and mentorship are probably becoming more personally important to me than scholarship or brand development or even expanding my reputation. So current Twitter stats, the total number of registered users is almost 700 million users. The total number of active Twitter users is about half of that. The average number of tweets per day is 500 million. The percent of Twitter users who use their phone to tweet is 80%. I do 100% from my phone. The number of active users every day, about 100 million. And the percent of Twitter users who don't tweet but watch other people tweet, 40%. So you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it if you're uncomfortable, but it's a great place to get your news. Every morning you can just pull up Circulation, JACC, ACC, AHA. Even if you just read those 4 sites for what was published in the last day or two, you'll be up to date on all the newest studies. If you like to know people's opinion, Kim Eagle with ACC does an Eagle Eye version. He gives you his opinion on these. People post their podcast. All of the leaders from ACC and AHA are on social media, and you can go to their site and say, well, what did you think about this? And the number of Twitter users that use it just for news, 74%. So it's strongly a news feed. Now, not everyone loves Twitter. This spring, Milton Packer wrote an article, Do You Practice Twitter-Based Medicine? And in that article, he was a very strong criticizer of it. He's known for being very outspoken about a lot of things. Most tweets are simply emotional reactions or an opinion related to some other tweet. There is some of that. Lack of expertise, absolutely. I think that's actually one of the powers of Twitter. Twitter is for emotion-based and opinion-based medicine. I would argue with that because I think if you are off the guidelines or not giving evidence-based medicine, someone is very quickly going to call you out on that.
And he says, tweets provide no evidence or guidance about the practice of medicine. You can follow vitamin companies and the people who say cholesterol doesn't cause atherosclerosis. I've actually been trolled by some of them because my tweets are a lot about the cholesterol guidelines and cholesterol being an important contributor to atherosclerosis. But there are people who don't think it is, and they, think that statins are killing everybody. And you can engage in those conversations, or you can just ignore it. Our past president of the ACC, Minna Walsh, came out about the same time with an article saying that she thought there were many reasons to use social media, and how the ACC has engaged it and how we're using it to show people there's a lot of diversity in cardiology. So one of the criticisms of cardiology right now, why a lot of young residents aren't choosing cardiology, is they feel it's not diverse, it's not family friendly, it's not female friendly. But as more women professors and named chairs and program directors are on social media, that encourages young women that there are these role models and that women can achieve in cardiology. It also shows people that if you're from an underprivileged area, if you're from an underrepresented minority, these people are cardiologists. They love what they're doing. They're engaged. Quinn Capers has done an exceptional job of encouraging black men to consider medicine and cardiology. And so there's a lot of good things going on to promote inclusion and diversity on Twitter. This is Mike Valentine. He trained here at Emory, and we love to claim him. He's in Virginia, but he's the new president of the ACC, and this was him learning to tweet at Heart House. If any of you want to know more about tweeting, I'll be glad to be your personal Twitter trainer. So there's a lot of great groups out there about disease processes. This is the SCAT Alliance and FMD Chat. I support some of their tweets by retweeting them, but also engage with them on social media. When you see a lot of women, SCAT is important, FMD is important, and these are just two sites that show some of the disease groups, disease-focused organizations that are on Twitter. There are many of them. There's a Marfan's group. There's every kind of genetic disorder or rare diseases that you also can work with. I don't know which doctor to choose. One has more friends on Facebook, but the other one just retweeted my message. I think we have to remember that what we're here for is patient care, and patients are on social media, and patients are looking for doctors on social media and looking for opinions on social media. From the patient perspective, Facebook is for communities. The FH Foundation has a very robust group of members on their Facebook. I don't do anything on Facebook, but I think it's useful when you use it for your professional career, not your private life. Twitter is to follow medical tweeters, hashtags, and tweet chats. A lot of people, I said earlier, are on YouTube. A lot of people on Pinterest. There's a lot of boards on exercise, diet, healthy eating, vegan, vegetarian, everything you could want. And LinkedIn is where they go to read about our bio, to decide, basically like a business card, if they want to come see us. Yes, a lot of people use the Emory Physician website and portal, but they're also using these other means of evaluating patients or evaluating physicians as well. So it's 2018. Are you on Twitter yet? So hopefully some of you are thinking, yeah, I might try this. So how do we get started? Well, first of all, you have to pick a Twitter handle. That's what your @ is going to be. I just picked @Gina Lundberg. It's very simple. It's easy to remember. Some people do cute things, like Bob Harrington does @HeartDocBob. Sharon Mulvey does HeartDocSharon. Some people do things about what they're interested in, like interventional cardiologists have some using radial first, or something about, I fix hearts type things. You do need a picture. So anytime the little gray head is still there, people are very suspect that you might be a robot, or you might be in Russia, or you might just not be legit. So always add a picture. If you don't want your picture there, put a picture of a heart, put a EKG, put whatever you want. But you want to personalize the site, because otherwise people are very suspect. You also need to pick a background. I'm going to show you some examples in a little bit. And then add your personal bio. What is it that you do? What area of medicine are you interested in? Is it academics? Is it teaching? Is it research? Is it, I do interventional cardiology. I do imaging. I do women and heart disease. And then you can add other sites that are related to yours. Your academic institution, maybe your research lab, the hashtags that you like to tweet under, the groups of focus groups you're interested in. And then you choose who you're going to follow. And that's basically the news sites you're going to get or the people you want to follow. I strongly recommend follow, AHA and ACC and Emory and some of those, but also follow the big journals, JACC, Circulation. If you're involved in lipids or pulmonary hypertension, follow those groups as well. So terminology. So following is groups or people that you want to get their tweets. You're going to get their news feed, and you'll get all of them. You also have to make sure that there's no notifications, that you turn off all of that. One of the past ACC presidents, Rick Shazel, I got him on social media November in our ACC meeting, and about 2 days later, he emailed me like, what the heck? I'm getting an email every time somebody follows me. I can't keep getting this many emails. And I basically walked him through how to go in there and turn that off. You want to turn off all the notifications and all the sound notifications. You don't want to be bothered at 2 in the morning because somebody did a tweet. The followers are people who are going to follow you, and they're going to get all of your tweets. Probably the most important thing to note is you can delete anything you've tweeted. So if later on you see there's a typo or you think, well, maybe that just wasn't appropriate, I don't think I should have said that, you can delete it. Nothing is permanent on Twitter. When people like what you said, they may put the like button, but they also might say, I want to send that out to people who follow me, and then they retweet it, and then it goes back out on the Twitter feed once again. So follow your news organizations. I mean, there's millions of things to follow, so you can get caught up. My husband does all kinds of sports. Roger Blumenthal does all kinds of lacrosse. The other thing is people will get to know your personality and what's important to you from what you tweet. So again, be careful what you follow. They can also check to see what you follow, and a lot of times that's how you'll figure out your political leanings or your more private things. So don't follow something if you don't want people to know that you're associated with that or you like that. Definitely follow leaders at your institution, your academic societies, journals, blogs, and then have some fun with it. I follow some vegetarian websites and some food things and women's sports things. And then government and political leaders, again, just make sure that it's not too volatile or it doesn't say something bad about you. Retweet is when that's the little circle button, and it means you're going to send it back out on your news feed as if you had said it. It's going to have the person who did it. It's just going to now be on your feed. And you can comment on a retweet. Sometimes I'll just add a congratulations or that was great, or tag it with some hashtags of people who would be interested in it. And generally in the beginning, you want to be very polite. If somebody starts following you, say, thanks for following me. Or if somebody important retweets you, like Eric Topol, say, thanks for the retweet. That was really cool. So what makes a good tweet? Well, they really should have a purpose. They should educate, emphasize, or encourage. Use a mix of headlines. People do questions. They'll do surveys. You can put in a survey of how would you manage this? Dual antiplatelet, Eliquis, aspirin, nothing, whatever. And then people will respond with your survey. And a lot of people actually use it for clinical guidance. People who say, I've never seen one of these before, what should I do? You can mention other people in your tweet. So if I was tweeting about the Women's Heart Center, I might include all of the women physicians included in that. If I was talking about something at the ACC, I might tag the leaders. I always recommend start with your full thought and then whittle it down. You do have to get it down to 240 characters. But once you start editing it, you'll see, well, I don't really need that word, and that's a little redundant. And it's usually pretty easy to get it down. But start with your full thought so that you get the content out the way you wanted it. When you attach things such as a picture, an article, a study, anything like that, you're more likely to get retweets. And you can take the whole title for an article and put it in bit.ly, and it'll shorten it so it doesn't take up as many characters. Also, I'd say think a minute before you tweet something. You can always delete it think about it and just make sure that the tone is right, that you don't sound snarky, that you don't sound arrogant, that you have the personality in the tweet that you want it to have. And as I said earlier, most tweets will peak in 18 minutes. These are some of the commonly used hashtags. There is actually a whole hashtagology that you can find online for cardiology. The ACC put it out, and then every year they put out these little flip charts of the new ones. If you're interested in AFib, just general cardiology, adult congenital, these are the ones. Cath lab, radial first is the one that's most commonly used by interventional cardiologists. A lot of imaging goes on Twitter, and some really cool stuff there. These are the hashtags. CV imaging is the broad one, but there's CV echo and CV EP. So some social media principles. Be aware of the image you present and manage it proactively. There's actually books about how to manage your online reputation. Recognize that the personal and the professional can't always be separated, but I definitely try to keep them separate. I don't put pictures of my kids or my dog or anything like that ever on unless it's like National Sibling Day or National, Take Your Dog to Work Day. You want to engage, but you have to be very cautious about personal advice. You always have to say, go see your doctor, this should be discussed with your doctor, those types of things when someone's wanting personal advice. Be respectful, but also show your human side. Like I said, people will know your personality before they ever meet you. I've been at conferences and met some of my Twitter buddies, and we hug because we feel like we know each other, even though we've never met face-to-face before. You do want to give your expertise and your insight. If somebody's tweeting something that you think is wrong, you want to gently say, this is, in my 40 years of experience, this is what I think is true. Again, polite, respect, those things are all important. And also, people are watching you. If you're applying for a job or promotion within your medical society, but also in your institution, people see what's going on there. They know. So again, be careful. Big Brother is always watching. Support colleagues. I always like to give kudos and thanks. I've shouted out thanks to Rebecca Levitt and Haval Kelly for great things that they're doing in the news, and I think it's important to acknowledge that from your team members. And then you can just try things, and if something fails, you'll learn from your mistakes. Adding a photo, a video, a quote, these things maximize your reach. Hashtags are definitely important for categorizing the topics you want to talk about, but don't put 1 million hashtags. Nobody wants to see a tweet with 40 hashtags. So here's a couple of examples of I've done, and so different types of tweets. This is to share. This was something on leadership, and I tagged Thursday Thoughts, Leadership, ACC WIC, and then these are all the women on the ACC WIC Leadership Council. Something about being friends, sent this out to some of my women in cardiology friends. So it can be personal, but to educate. So this was from an article I was a part writer in that we did that was in CIRC Outcomes. Wanted to tweet that, educated. It was a really nice graphic. This is also about the Southern diet causing heart disease, the REGARD study. Again, these are from conferences. These are strictly educational purpose. To announce and promote. So here's, I told you there were journal clubs on ACC about that, and then also about an article we wrote that, you want people to read it. You spend a lot of time writing those things. You want people to read them. So there was actually a study from the Journal of Psychological Science at the University of Pennsylvania about what tweets say about you, because they do reveal your personality, and this is important. Negative tweets correlated with higher rates of heart disease. Positive tweets correlated with lower rates of heart disease, and tweets were actually a better predictor of heart disease than smoking, diabetes, income, or education. So positive tweeters are going to be healthier, less cardiovascular disease. Negative, grumpy tweeters have more heart disease. Personally, I think it's been a very important benefit to me. I've made a lot of friends, made a lot of contacts, expanded my network to a wonderful group of what we call hashtag cardio Twitter and hashtag Twitter buddies. Just people I've met literally all around the world. You can also share advice and give conference updates. There are academic benefits. As the importance of social media grows, and if it does become truly a core competence in cardiology, this might be part of your portfolio for promotion. Also, as I said, you get opportunities. I've been asked to give 3 different lectures at different conferences because somebody saw something I did on Twitter. I was invited to Saudi Arabia and Serbia because of my international Twitter friends. I did get a $25,000 grant because of social media. So I think that there are tangible benefits that you want to consider. This was out just this weekend, and I thought it was so important. Personal branding is the intentional curation of who you are, what you do, and how you do it in order to proactively advance your professional status. And I thought this was a very good thought about Twitter because it is going to be your personal brand. Also, when I had put on that I was given social media this morning, Mamas sent this out, and it was just so good. I asked him, can I quote it, and he said, yes. Social media is the voice that enables us to have global impact with little discrimination for gender, race, religion, or sexuality. And it's one of the few avenues where content is more relevant than who is delivering it. And I thought this was just a beautiful statement about really how important Twitter can be. And it is inclusive, and there is equity there, and you don't get published just because you have a certain name or a reputation. Everybody can share in these opinions. I did get named the top 10 women in cardiology and social media, and so I am kind of over the top of it. This is my site. You want to have a picture, you can have a background. I have associate professor at Emory Department of Medicine. It's important to include those things, and the Emory Women's Heart Center. And then the other things, sites I run 4 Twitter sites. I am on the ACC with Cancel, and more important, I'm a badass Emory woman. I love that hashtag. So there are 5 stages of Twitter users. At first, you're in denial. I know some of you are still there. Then you start to get curious. Then there's this aha moment. I think that's kind of like going from instructor to assistant professor. Then you become obsessed. I think I'm a little bit past that, and I'm on to it's a part of life, somewhere between associate professor and professor level. But it is fun. Don't take it too seriously. Try it out. Get engaged. And for some of you, like Dr. King, you're on Twitter whether you want to be or not. People are tweeting your picture and your quotes and your name every single day. I keep telling Larry Sperling that and other leaders here at Emory. So you need to get engaged so you can manage your reputation instead of everyone else do it for you. I'll close with this. Social media obsessed people may want to put their handle on their tombstone, how many followers and club points and all these silly things at the time of your death. And then just one more cartoon. Most of the new arrivals seem incapable of conversation. They just stare at their hands in despair. Any questions and answers?
Well, thanks, Gina. I'll start off with a question. So what about 2 other social media areas that sort of represent extremes? So one is doximity, which is sort of, medical professionals only, and then the other is Reddit, which is sort of a wild, wild west of social media. And, we've had a couple of our faculty, or at least one I know, have done an AMA on there, and the president has done one. So what about those 2? Because they're sort of at the extremes, I think.
Well, I don't know Reddit, so you just enlightened me. But I am very, very familiar with Doximity. And so if you haven't gone on, it's a bit like LinkedIn, but it's only for cardiologists. It's really cool because once you put in like where you went to medical school, it'll say, hey, do you want to follow these people you went to medical school with? And you can actually catch up with people that you might not have seen in 30 or 40 years. It'll also tag the hospitals where you are, the institutions where you are, so you can build your group there really quickly. It also puts out published articles and commentary, and you can post there as well. I was on Doximity this weekend, and I recently edited a clinical cardiology journal on heart failure in women. I was there about the women aspect, not the heart failure aspect, but it was already on Doximity, and I just got to congratulate all of our authors who were part of it. Doximity is very good, but it's just cardiology. You can also go there to find an old colleague or find somebody in town you want to refer somebody to if they're outside the Emory system. And Reddit, I don't know, so I think you enlightened me more than I know. You want to share any more on that?
No, I was just wondering what you thought about it, because Reddit's a little bit younger age group, you know, sort of 20s.
I'm not hip enough.
And Adam Greenbaum did an AMA on TAVR, I think. I think it was on TAVR. AMA's Ask Me Anything. And President Obama had done one on it. I don't think Mr. Trump is using Reddit. Anyhow, open to questions. Anybody have any other questions from the group?
I would encourage all of you researchers to get on Google Scholar or ResearchGate, because it's a very good way to connect and see what else is out there. And even if you're writing a paper and you want to do something, sometimes you put it on PubMed or whatever, you don't get an article, you can go and find it. And sometimes the whole article is there for free, and you can get it without, you can get more than just the abstract. Rebecca? And then we'll get you Dr. Morris. Dr. Levitt?
I'm having trouble with the technology of the microphone. Thanks, Gina. I want to let you know I already tweeted out about your talk. So
Thank you. Live tweeting is important.
But I did have a question. Social media is criticized for sort of amplifying the thoughts and political opinions that you already have. And I was wondering how you thought that related to using it as a professional site. Are you, kind of prone to just seeing articles you might have already seen and seeing medical or scientific opinions that you already share? And do we have an additional obligation, if we're using it for professional purposes, to somehow prevent that from happening and kind of expand beyond what we already see?
So I have two answers for that. If you're just wanting to get news and keeping it simple, following fewer people, fewer posts is going to be better, because it's not going to take up your time. But then I think you can create, what we call an echo chamber, and you're just following just JACC and JACC, and you're not getting some of the more outside things, or you're not getting more opinions than just say maybe, Mayo and Cleveland and Emory and a few things. I've gotten to the point with Twitter that I want a lot of opinions. I follow a lot of non-medical people, as well as people in a lot of other fields, OBGYNs, pulmonologists, nephrologists, some oncologists, people who have different opinions along the lines that will influence me medically, but also people talking about, women rising in promotion, or breaking glass ceilings, or diversity and equity, which is very important to me. So I think if you can create your own echo bubble and have a very limited opinion, but maybe you're trying to stay news focused. If that's the point, I get that. But I think if you really want to know what's going on social media, you have to follow a lot of different feeds, or you can get very, narrow focused in your opinions. And I really think it's important to not get political. I think that's hard when you're trying to influence legislators to support certain things, such as research and getting more women in research trials. That's something I tweet a lot about. But you also have to be careful that you don't offend half the country. And I think if you've done it well, people might know your leanings, but they don't think you're, an adamant person. I think it's also just, sometimes I'll see somebody else's tweet and I'll be like, wow, I wish they hadn't said that. That doesn't come across very nice. And then, I just learn from it. It's a very wide field, and you can just news it out. You can share your opinions, and there's everything in the middle. I think it's important to follow some people that you think do it well, and then try to emulate them. Just like anything, you need a mentor. And Dr. Morris?
I guess my question to you is, what have you given up to be so active in this social media? I mean, I find it very helpful with social media to find information, to go see, as you had up there, to seek information. But I don't see myself wanting to be inundated with all this stuff coming through. And that's what I'm asking. What have you changed? What have you had to give up something to get this active?
I eased into it. What I do is, usually around 7 a.m. I go through the news feeds, and because I do host 4 sites, I'll think, well, this is appropriate for Georgia ACC. Maybe it's something Piedmont did, and maybe something was here at Emory, and so I'll put that on the Emory Women's Heart Center one, and then maybe something's about women not getting published and women not getting promoted, and then that goes on Gina Lundberg. And then the 10,000 Women is patient information about maybe low sodium diets or healthy eating. So I read the same 100, say, news feeds, and then I decide, well, you're going here and you're going there. So I don't spend 4 times doing that. I really just find it a better way to get information. So just this weekend, I was talking with a friend, and he said, yeah, I saw this article about weightlifting might be better than cardio. And I'm like, yeah, let me send that to you. And in like 2 minutes, I had, whipped it off to him. I use it as news. And I want to have, I spend about 20 minutes in the morning knowing what's the new study, what's important about it. If you want to read it in depth, you can pull up the whole thing. If you just want sort of the abstract, you can get that. But I don't think I've given up a lot. I think I've actually focused my time so that I get more out of that 20 minutes than I would if I was just watching headline news. So I guess I've given up other news feeds. All that fake news, I've given that up. Yes, Spencer.
Gina, it obviously works because I got a message a message from China that told me you were doing grand rounds this morning. So that it obviously works. Yeah, I want to talk to you about. I'm doing Accel now. I'm in charge of Accel, and I want to figure out that is the ultimate snail mail information. So
Podcast.
to see how, how that could work.
Yeah.
But my question is about, you get all these things from Doximity and LinkedIn, and it says so-and-so, and you know these people are inviting you to be on. Are they really inviting you, or is that, because I always just delete them, I pretend.
No, you
to.
have to tag it and say, send it to them, send it to them. Now, some will come to me that I didn't invite, and I don't know them, so you can just put delete, but,
Since I've never accepted any, I'm afraid to do it, because then I'm showing partiality to somebody, and I've already rejected everybody else. But you know that about me.
yeah, I think for certain leaders, if you don't take everybody, you could get, blowback. So it's either all or none. Most, a lot of us aren't important enough that they care if we friend them or not. But yeah, you do accept it, and they can send it to you directly and say, I want to connect with you. Connect is the word on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Gina. I guess this will be on YouTube later this week, so you'll tweet it out and you'll see what happens. It will be tweeted. Okay. Thanks so much, Gina.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.